This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Adori. Thank you very much for spending the hour with us. And boy, do I have a wicked guest here in the studio. Amna Haddad, welcome to the show.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for being here. I have to say you're one of the guests I wanted to have on the show for a while. And finally, you're here.
Thank you. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Listen, a lot of stuff I want to pick your brain on, actually. Especially the things that you're doing. It's fantastic. And I'm so proud of a lot of the accomplishments you've achieved. But I also want to know, does the region still have this stereotype on weightlifting? Because that's something you specialized in.
So the answer to that question is that 10 years ago, there was a lot of stereotypes around women who do weightlifting.
Yeah.
However, now it has changed quite a lot, actually. If anything, it's being encouraged for women to be active, and especially now in CrossFit, it's a sport that's picking up here a lot in the UAE.
Yeah.
And there's a big weightlifting element to it. So there's definitely a mind shift between, the communities, the younger generation. Of course, the older generation, it's a bit hard for them to adjust to these kind of changes because it's just not what they grew up with.
Right.
And we cannot judge them for that. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So what we can do and say is just do the best for ourselves and see what, suits us the most. And
and saying that, you mentioned mind shift. I know that you're big on mind. I know you're big on mindset. How important is it to kind of stay in your lane and focus on your goal?
Absolutely very important. In life, you cannot allow others' opinions and ideas to change your direction.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can easily be swayed to like million paths.
Yeah.
But you have to believe in yourself and have strong conviction in what you're doing. And if you have that strong conviction, nothing would happen or anything anyone would say would ever change that for you.
Yeah.
So having that conviction and belief in what you're doing for yourself will allow you to continue on that path. So if you find yourself kind of questioning your path, then maybe ask yourself, why am I on this path? Is this the one that I want for myself? Or is it what's accepted by others?
Yeah.
Or is it going to make me more popular? So for me, like having that kind of, those kind of questions helped me reflect a lot on myself and where I want to go in life.
Reflection, massive word as well. You got to have that kind of skill to be able to reflect. How do you take a step back to reflect normally?
So normally, if I want to take a step back to reflect on something, I would completely shut off.
Okay.
I will go like MIA, without the action part, just missing in somewhere, somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
And I would like to go and kind of quiet, to a place that's quiet, silence around me. I want to hear myself without sound, without noise, without music, without people's opinions and thoughts and comments and feedback. And I have a very strong self-awareness when it comes to what makes me feel good and what does not make me feel good.
Yeah.
So I always ask myself, like, am I honoring myself when I'm doing this?
Right.
And if my answer is no, then I need to, change path, change direction, or just kind of find a different path that works better for me.
I like that. When I came into the studio, folks, so obviously her, and shout out to Nadia as well, who's here in the background. When we came into the studio, I saw you kind of sitting in without lights on.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, what, you guys are switching. She's like, no. I'm actually happy with it. And I was like, great. Okay, it's a good start. And by the way, folks, this is the first time I've met Amna. Like, I know we're talking like we've known each other for a while, but I just met her seconds before we came on. And then I came in and she was just chilling there with Nadia in the dark and just kind of happy. And that's one of the skill set you were talking about.
Absolutely. Like, you have to know what makes you feel grounded. And for me, like, having that quiet, calm moments before an event or speaking on live or anything, honestly, like competing, whatever I'd done in the past, I needed that me time before I step on the stage to give my best self to the world.
Yes.
And I think that is one of the most important skills that I've learned and what I need to do to actually be able to go out and do what I do.
Yeah.
If I always needed to be hyped up or whatever, then something's not right.
Right.
Why do I need to be hired up all the time to feel like I need
I get
to do
you.
this, you know?
Yeah.
So sometimes I just want quiet, I want dark, I want...
There's nothing wrong with that.
It calms me down, makes me feel grounded.
I like it. You mentioned also that competition. Now, I know you competed, at a very high level. what got you into competition and why weightlifting?
Okay. So that's a story. So
Yeah.
I'll go back in time.
Tell me.
So when I was actually 19 years old, in around 2019, I was dealing with severe depression and my mental health was suffering.
Right.
And one day I realized I don't want to feel like that anymore. And I wanted to change that. So I decided to go for a simple walk. And honestly, that walk changed my life in ways I did not even imagine. And what I felt in that walk is that I was sweating all the negative feelings and thoughts in my body. It was hot. It was like, I think, July or August. So we all know how warm that time was.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to let go and just like release and take action and move. And as a result of that, I realized, you know what? I have the power in me to make a choice that can change my life. And that's exactly what I did. And from there on, I went to the gym. I started to do more general fitness, a bit of bodybuilding. And then I learned about CrossFit. And through CrossFit, I realized, there's a competitive spirit in me that wants to come out, wants to give this new field a chance. And I started doing local events, and I decided to focus on doing CrossFit for about a year. And focus on training for the CrossFit Asia Regionals, which was in 2012. I had zero background as an athlete. I was not a natural born athlete. I did not do sports as a kid. I was active but did not do sports. So it was very out of the blue, out of the norm in the society here. And through CrossFit, I learned more about Olympic weightlifting. I was the first Arab and GCC national to actually compete in CrossFit Asia Regionals in 2012.
Amazing.
And I remember when I was there in Korea, it was such a beautiful environment, the teams coming together, supporting each other. It was such a nice environment. And I asked myself, why am I the only Arab woman here? It was a bit strange for me. I didn't understand it because I was not very much into sports and I was not as active in the scene. And then I realized there's a lot of shame around it. There's a lot of negative thoughts about women being in these kind of sports, being active and things like that. So I said to myself, you know what, let me go back home. I want to focus on a sport that can really, I can really measure my progress in. I can really see some change in. And I love weightlifting. My body likes lifting weights. So I do not like endurance. I do not like running. I cannot run to save my life, but I probably can lift some weights to save my life. So I decided to come back home and just focus on that, and with zero understanding of what it means to train for the Olympics. So I just kind of woke up one day and was like, yeah, let's go train for the Olympics. Why not?
Okay, just casually.
Just like that. Why not?
Wow. Okay.
So that's what I did. And that's how I got into Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah.
And I started to compete within about 5 months of training.
Wow. That's not a lot. For people that are listening, that's not a lot of time.
No. It's
So you must have been gifted to do that. I know you said you were not a natural athlete, but that's gift. That's a gift.
I would say I had determination. I would say, I cannot say it was a gift because physically I had to work with a lot of misalignments and mobility issues.
Okay.
So my lifting was not perfect in the beginning. My technique was not great, and I had to work on that quite a lot to be able to do it well, or at least good enough. And and that's how I got into my first event. I competed in the United States at the Arnold Sports Festival. So I kind of went all the way from UAE to the US to compete. And it was an amazing opportunity to experience that, and I just was hooked since then.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. How about that for a first segment? Oh my God. We're just getting warm here. Hey, that was the first segment only, bro. I'm telling you, there's more coming. All right, guys, stay tuned for more on the only place to be at 3, the halftime show on Pulse 95.
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. And if you see me on YouTube, I am literally nodding my head to the music in the background. And so is my guest as well. As you can see, Amna Haddad there. She's jamming with us here live on Pulse 95 radio in the heart of Sharjah. Amna, there was some sound bites coming out of that first segment. I could hear it. I was like, man, we're talking gold here. But there was things you also said. You said that it took you months to get on track. Then from the UAE to the US, you're at the Arnold Center as well, doing that competition. What kind of emotions goes through your mind when you're the first of your kind?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Here's the funny answer. I had no idea I was. I was not aware of it until it was brought in front of me being told, Amna, by the way, you're doing this as the first woman in this field, in this way, in this whatever.
Yeah.
So the media kind of took the narrative.
Okay.
I hadn't had the time to process what I was doing.
Gotcha.
So for a very long time, it became not my true story. It became what the story of the world, not what the world wanted to kind of create of me.
Yeah.
So I was lost in that for a while. When I was younger, I was in my early 20s. You know, you're young. It's, you know, you get that kind of like attention. You feel like it's important. You're doing important work. People are like listening to you and what you have to say. And the reality of all of that is that I was actually in a journey of healing of my own depression. It was not about me trying to be first, me trying to lift the heaviest weight. It was never about that. And this is something I didn't realize way until later on, until I took that time to reflect and take a step back from everything that I've done to really ask myself who I did this for. Because there were times during that journey I really wanted to just kind of walk away and quit because it no longer resonated with me competing. At least competing did not resonate with me anymore.
Interesting.
And because I feel like I've done what I wanted to do out of it. I wanted to compete against myself. I wanted to compete against, like, you know, the ideas of what women can and cannot do and all of that stuff. And then one day I realized, like, but why? You know, I want to live my life and just be, and I want to be happy, and I want to feel content with who I am, and that can look different each day, each month, each year. It doesn't have to stick to one certain image. So the media kind of took the narrative and took that away from me. So I decided to take my power back, and now I'm telling my story the way I want to tell my story.
Interesting. How different is the perception of Amna Haddad compared to the reality of Amna Haddad? That's a good question.
I'm not sure how the world perceives me. I cannot, you know, everybody has their own ideas.
At that period. Now I know, obviously, you do a lot of talks and everything. It's great. At that time?
I would say I may have seen maybe aggressive, direct, determined, wanted to compete, wanted to reach that high level of like, you know, in sports as a competitive athlete. Now I would say I'm super laid back, super chill. I still have a lot of passion and drive. And I think sometimes when you see people who are more laid back, we assume they're not passionate or they don't have the drive to do things in life. But I think that is just how our personalities, it has nothing to do with like how we put it out there. So,
with all the pressures that you had to face, being an Olympic weightlifter, being the first of your kind, being a trendsetter, how did you manage to reset?
So after my Olympic qualifiers in 2016, which was the biggest event I took part of, and we'll get back to this later, I decided to travel abroad. Not travel abroad. I went for a vacation to the Maldives by myself. I turned my phone off completely for 8 days. My family and I did not talk for 8 days. I told them, listen, I really need to be alone. I need to just kind of really take time to focus on what I want to do next. And I wanted to decide to myself whether I want to continue being an athlete or just change to a completely different path. And I decided I no longer want to compete. And during that trip, I just knew after the Olympic qualifiers, that was the the station for me to kind of get out of the train and choose a different path. And that's exactly what I did. And I think there's a lot of shame, especially when people start to create this story around you, an expectation for you to be in a certain place in your life. Like until today, people still get so excited when they see me lift weights. I'm like, I love you guys so much. I love you. But I do it for myself, for my own like health. It's not about me going back to competing. And like for me, it's becoming that there is no shame to change path and change direction in life. Just because you did something and you did it really well doesn't mean you have to stick to that image of yourself. You don't have to box yourself. You know, you have to allow yourself to experience life and whatever it has to offer for you. And you know that. You know what you want to do. So don't allow others' opinions and image of you affect your path in life.
Amazing. And so it sounds like the weights was almost like your medicine. So movement was medicine. And it sounds like your trip to Maldives was almost like your social detox. Wow, there you go. I like it. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, man. I'm enjoying this. We'll take a quick break. I promise you we'll be back right after this. Don't go anywhere, folks. Here's some BB The Weeknd. See you in a bit.
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time, and I can't believe we're halfway through the halftime show. It's not full time yet, but we're having a good time here in the studio. I am with Amna Haddad herself here, and we are catching up. Saying catching up like I've known her for years. We just met 10 minutes ago, but we are catching up here in the studio and having a good time. I hope you guys are enjoying the show, and if you're kicking yourself for missing the show, don't worry. All of our episodes are podcasts on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, or if you prefer a visual and want to see Amna in the flesh on YouTube, then head over to our YouTube channel on Pulse 95 Radio. And yet she's doing the pose. There, do it again. You can see that live on YouTube now, or you can see the whole episode for its entirety on the halftime show, Pulse 95 Radio. A lot of stuff you were saying before the break, which was like gold again. You talked about the qualifiers. Very interested to know more about that. What was that like, experiencing that?
That was the most difficult yet rewarding event I've ever took part of.
Okay.
So 6 months before the qualifiers, I got severely injured, so I had a disc.
Okay.
And around that time, I had also a really bad mental health breakdown. So I had a relapse with my depression that was very severe.
Right.
And I took a step back again. And it's what's interesting about taking steps back, because sometimes taking step backs really help us keep going forward, by the way. What happened with me is that I stopped lifting completely because I could not even lift a chair. I physically could not even lift anything small, anything.
Yeah.
And then, I took time to rehab myself, take care of my body. And then the coach, the UAE national coach, approached me and asked me, how's your training going? How's everything? I told him, I haven't been training much lately. I didn't tell him I had an injury yet. And he told me, we are going to compete at the Olympic qualifiers in Uzbekistan that's happening in April 2016. And you are part of the team that's going.
Okay.
And for me to receive that message this is what I've been working hard for the last 4 years. I quit my job. I used to be a journalist. I left home. I went to the US to train abroad, but on my own as a foreigner. I did not have that support system that I would have had, let's say, with my family here. So I had to decide for myself, do I really want to continue on this path now, or do I walk away? Because the doctors told me, Amna, you have an injury. If you keep on lifting, you will continue causing yourself pain and further injuries. I told myself, will I regret not doing this? And my answer was yes, immediately. So I had to go for it. I told myself, you know what? I'll take the steps. I'll do the training. I'll let things happen as they happen. And I will release the outcome. I will not think about the outcome. It's not going to be my concern. So we went to the Olympic qualifiers and we competed as a UAE national team. We were 7 girls. We were in all different weight categories. And as a result of our team effort, we were able to actually qualify for the 2016 Rio Olympics. And I had the second highest points in the team that actually helped us qualify.
Nice.
And for me, that was a major moment of success and also a major moment of realization that your hard work does pay off. It may not pay off the way you want it to pay off, but it still will contribute to something bigger than yourself. And for me, that was what that experience taught me. I didn't personally compete in the Olympics myself, but that was okay. I was not angry or upset. Of course, there's some sadness. You put all your hard work in a goal and then you don't see it to fruition the way you expected. But I knew I was okay with the outcome regardless, because I know I've done everything in my power to make this happen. And I had a lot of challenges to get to that point. To me, that was the Olympic gold medal, not actually the gold medal at the Olympics.
Right. A couple of things you said there. The gut is often seen as the second brain. When we have a gut feeling, which it seems like you had when you were asked and you got that message to join the team, how important is it to listen to your gut in those situations?
Very important. I mean, I'm a very intuitive person, so I like to go with my feelings, but I also like to use my brain at the same time. So I'm very left-brained as well as I am right-brained. It kind of complicates things for me sometimes. but I do like to listen to what my initial feeling is and my initial thought is. It usually is the right one. So your first strong feeling towards something is the one you should go towards. And that's what I did, and I believe that it's the reason why I was able to continue on that path, is listening to myself and to my gut feeling.
And recently you had a chance to express your gut feeling on the W Dubai That's What She Said panel. And not only that, but with all this that's happening, thank you very much. With all this that's happening, what's the next step for you? You know, I know you're taking a step away from weightlifting, but you're also out there inspiring the youth. What's the next step for you now?
My next step is to continue what I'm doing. Speaking at the event at W The Palm the other day, at What She Said, was such a inspirational moment, because sometimes we don't realize how much our stories make an impact until you're done with that talk, until like you've left the stage.
Yeah.
So when I leave the stage, sometimes people approach me and tell me, Amna, I'm struggling with this. Thank you so much for sharing that on the stage, because now I know I can handle it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's to continue on that path. It's not always about doing the next thing, about the next success, about the next, title. For me, I like to just allow myself to exist and appreciate what I have right now. It might be the best day I have and I don't even know it. So I don't always like to think about the future anymore, especially I think with COVID, it taught us to kind of just
live in the present.
Be here, be now, enjoy what we have, because we never know when it will change. So I just continue inspiring whenever I can. I have other activities that I'm interested in these days, which is like I'm learning drums. I play the drums now.
Okay.
So that's a new skill. I've been just like wanting to learn something different. And there's a lot of similarities between drumming and weightlifting, which is like quite interesting. You hold the stick, you have to hold it in a certain way, you have to put your thumb in a certain way to hold it properly and for it to like kind of rebound and all of that stuff. So
hey, listen, if you got some sticks, man, I might want to see her on the drums here as we get through it. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We'll play some Iyaz replay. Fantastic, Amna. Let's continue this conversation right after this. See you in a bit.
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. And you know what? I'm really gutted it's almost full time, because we've had a good time here in the studio with Amna Haddad, who, by the way, if you're tuning on the Instagram live, you're getting just as good content as you are off that, as you were on the show, because she's been talking to us about her experience, her lessons, the things that sometimes we have to learn from, even though we don't expect it. And we always talk about on the show prevention over cure. And I think she's mentioned that during the break. And Amna, I have to say, man, thank you so much for coming today.
It's my pleasure. It's been an amazing day chatting with you. I feel like I've known you all my life as well. So we're just like chatting like we've been buddies.
Absolutely. And Masood had some great questions for us here. And he says, it's been years, been listening to your show and it still feels energetic and magnificent, bro. Thank you very much, Masood. And he has a question, another question for both of us this time. He says, we all know when and why to reset, but how to reset? What's the starting point for you?
For me, it's to shut off, to immediately turn my phone off, go somewhere where I can really be just with myself.
Yeah.
And that could be like at the beach, could be in the desert, could be getting on a plane and traveling to a quiet place.
Yeah.
So it depends on the person and what you like and what makes you feel good.
Yeah, I like that. I have to ask you something. The sport that you competed in and also the life that you live, it seems like you've done a lot of personal bests. How do you decide on what a personal best is?
That's a good question. How I decide on what a personal best is? Honestly, it is different each time in my life. And sometimes we assume that to be considered the best, we have to hit a certain benchmark. But you have to decide what success means to you and how that makes you feel. It's about, for me, it was about feeling peace, content, finding that inner, calm. For me, that is what I care about. It's not about, how much weight I've lifted or which, title I've received or which award I've received. All of those things are great and lovely, but they are not what I see as a personal best.
Yeah, excellent. Love that. How important is it to have a strong support system?
Very important. I wish I could say I've had the support system I needed in my life. It kind of came and went a lot. There was not one person or one specific, situation where I felt, I had the support I needed. So I had to learn to be my own cheerleader.
Nice.
And that was not easy. But sometimes you really have to push yourself and be your own cheerleader, because in the end of the day, you go to sleep with yourself. You are on your own, when you close your eyes. That's you. You have to wake up in the morning and you know how to, put yourself in a good mood. You have to create that environment that allows you to feel that way.
Yeah.
So it's in your hands to, support yourself. I know sometimes if you're dealing with a mental health, a condition that can be different, and obviously that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But we all have in our hands some degree of power and choice that has been given to us. And sometimes you forget we have it. And this is just a reminder that you have it, and I have it, and we can do something with it.
Yeah, amazing. I've got a question for you now for those that are listening. What advice, if you could go back and give to a young, aspiring Amna Haddad, what advice would you give?
So here's the thing. I cannot go back in time and talk to young Amna. If I do this, I will be using the emotions of shame, regret, negative feelings. What I can do today is use what I've learned and pass it on to others. Because young Amna was young Amna. And honestly, I love her for everything she did with what she knew. I cannot change that. And because of my younger self, I am who I am today. If I went back in time and I had all these different tools and messages and lessons, I might be a completely different person sitting with you today. But I'm not that person, And what we can do with, our experiences is pass it on to others and teach them and educate them and hopefully inspire them through what we've learned so they can do it better.
Love that. Great answer. Oh my God. Look at her face. Can you see her on Instagram? Fantastic. Before I let you go, where can we follow you?
So I am on Instagram, amna.s.alhaddad. I'm on Twitter as well, amna_alhaddad. And you can find me on my website as well, which is www.amnaalhaddad.com.
And you have exciting things coming up. And if you want to know more about those, then make sure you follow her and she'll be announcing those. She told me one of them, but I won't mention on here. She'll be the one to let you guys know. Shout out to Nadia as well and who are here in the studio as well. Thank you very much. Yes, and happy birthday to Tariq as well. And my beautiful mom and my uncle who are listening as well. Thank you guys for listening. Remember, guys, you can catch us every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, 3 to 4 UAE time. And if you do miss the show, it's on podcast, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, or the YouTube channel Pulse 95 Radio. Amna, you have been fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully, somebody out there had, a lesson from today's session that they can take and take action with it.
Absolutely. And there you have it, folks. Have a fantastic day. Here's the full-time whistle. And we are out. Take care. Have a blessed day. All the best.
If you liked this episode of The Halftime Show, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories. Pulse